What's up, fantasy fans, comic book fans, manga fans? As always, I'm Shay from the channel Zachary Shay, and I recently did a top 15 fantasy books list, and today I want to go over my top 10 comics, because as I was putting it together, I was trying to put certain manga and certain comics in my top 15 series of all time, and then turn into like a top 30. So I was like, okay, different mediums, different lists. So today is going to be top 10. I don't have 15, it's just 10 today. 10 graphic novels. These are not to include manga. These are Western world American but not strictly American. You know what I mean? The colored panels, the inking, the coloring, these are not mangas. Mangas will get their own list. The reason for that being is mangas usually have the same creative team throughout the entirety of their run, which I believe leads to a more cohesive story a lot of the time. So I don't feel like it's fair to compare those to graphic novels where some of the challenge is often building upon what was done before and trying to make it your own and tell a cohesive, self-contained story within a bigger mythos. And another thing with this list, this is coming from a primarily novel reader. I know that artists are a big part of the comic creation process, but I'm a big prose reader, so I think of writers. I follow a lot of writers. If I love a writer like, let's say, Tom King or Alan Moore, I like to read everything they've ever done. That may be a disservice to the artist. It's not intentional. So for this list, I can double dip with artists. I will not be double dipping with authors. Otherwise, this will be an entirely Tom King, Alan Moore list, and I don't want to do that. I want to have, multiple authors represented in this list. All right, and with no further ado, my number 10 is going to be an entry from Frank Miller. Now, it was hard narrowing it down. I have not read The Dark Knight Returns. I definitely plan to. I know a lot of people say that that's one of Frank Miller's best runs. Haven't gotten around to it yet, but I have read his Batman Year One. I thought that was phenomenal, and it came very close to this number 10 spot. But for my number 10, I had to go with a different origin story for a different character, and that is his Man Without Fear, Daredevil, the character of Daredevil, with John Romita Jr. on the art.
Daredevil. It was in that one moment of cold purpose. That moment when Mickey's life hung in the balance. That moment when the wild part of him found itself calm and clear. The moment that Matt Murdock became a man. It was in that one moment that the name came back to him. Daredevil. Echoing from the schoolyard, from the bullies' taunts. Daredevil. He hated that name. He wanted to shove it down their throats. And now he wears it like a badge. Let all the bullies know. All of them. The kind that use knives and guns and the kind that use money, they have an enemy. Daredevil. The costume is probably a good idea. So did myself. God only knows what it looks like.
So he did his classic run on Daredevil, where he introduced the characters of Stick, Elektra. He introduced the Kingpin as the main antagonist for Daredevil, and then he went on to do Born Again with David Mazzucchelli. But it wasn't until Man Without Fear that I really felt that this was masterpiece level territory. The Daredevil mythos, the Daredevil lore, the Daredevil origin was established well before Frank Miller, but he put his own spin on it in the original run. Man Without Fear, he then retcons it once more, and to amazing effect. The Man Without Fear is absolutely phenomenal. You get the character of Stick and his sort of relationship with Matt Murdock, which definitely, that iteration made it into the Netflix series. You get his relationship with Elektra, his relationship with Foggy. All of that is given far more nuance, in my opinion, than in the main Frank Miller Daredevil run. So while I could cheat and say all of Frank Miller's Daredevil, I'm going to go with The Man Without Fear. That I believe, issue miniseries. All right, so for my number 9 pick, I'm going to go with Miss Marvel by G. Willow Wilson.
Good is not a thing you are, it's a thing you do. There's this ayah from the Quran that my dad always quotes when he sees something bad on TV. A fire or a flood or a bombing. Whoever kills one person, it is as if he has killed all of mankind. And whoever saves one person, it is as if he has saved all of mankind. When I was a little kid, that always made me feel better because no matter how bad things get, there are always people who rush in to help. And according to my dad, they are blessed.
Now, this run of Miss Marvel, the character of Kamala Khan, she is a Pakistani superhero that recently got hit with the Terrigen mist cloud that gave her inhuman-like abilities. They're basically mutants, but called something different. For all intents and purposes, she's basically a mutant. But her character, to me, was the best Peter Parker comic that was coming out when I was growing up. It was, the Gen Z Peter Parker. And I thought it was brilliant. I thought her cast of characters were insanely good. There were definitely lulls in that series, but I think the character of Kamala and the character of Bruno, just to give some of the best characters from that run, but really the whole cast. It's been years since I've read it, but I remember thinking that entire cast was incredibly well done, and it felt like I was reading a Peter Parker comic, a Spider-Man, a Miles Morales comic. It just felt like that teenager who has to deal with all these responsibilities, but they're still growing up. It felt like coming of age, and it felt heroic, and it felt poignant, and it felt powerful. And I have not read more Kamala Khan stuff after G. Willow Wilson. I don't think anyone will ever get her the way G. Willow Wilson ever did. But yeah, it completely wowed me. All right, number 8, we have a series that I fell in love with as a kid. I was obsessed with this in high school. I think most of us were, and that is The Walking Dead by Robert Kirkman.
The second we put a bullet in the head of one of those undead monsters, the moment one of us drove a hammer into one of their faces or cut a head off, we became what we are. And that's just it. That's what it comes down to. You people don't know what we are. We're surrounded by the dead. We're among them. And when we finally give up, we become them. We're living on borrowed time here. Every minute of our life is a minute we steal from them. You see them out there? You know that when we die, we become them. You think we hide behind walls to protect us from the Walking Dead? Don't you get it? We are the Walking Dead.
Maybe not everybody was obsessed with the comic, but the AMC TV show really took the world by storm for a while. I know it kind of dipped off in quality. For a while I preferred the show over the comics, and I believe that was partially to do with the characters of Carol and Daryl. But looking back on it, I think we got a far more cohesive, while still being even more expansive story in the comic. Like, it was somehow more vast, but also more cohesive at the same time, whereas the show tried to be this big epic scope and kind of fell apart in places. Nothing against the show. I still want to catch up one day because I love the characters of Daryl and Carol. But to me, that original Robert Kirkman run, it's the only Robert Kirkman run, the only Walking Dead run, was just absolutely brilliant. Watching the story of Rick Grimes, I do think the comic is noticeably better in quality than the show. Me looking back as an adult now, I realize how much more nuanced the comic was than the show. Even though the show felt more nuanced to me as an adolescent, I look back on the comic now and I think that was changing the genre, and it practically saved Image Comics. And without Image Comics, we wouldn't have a ton of my favorite series. So immense respect for Robert Kirkman for creating the Walking Dead universe. All right, so number 7 may not be the wisest choice for me to include in my top 10 because I am not caught up on this series, but I absolutely adored it. I caught up to what was coming out, and then I fell off. I really plan on getting the compendiums and catching up, but it is Something is Killing the Children by James Tynion IV.
I'm not a superhero. I'm just a tired, sad lady who knows how to kill these things, and I'm going to try my damnedest to end it this time.
Absolutely brilliant. Love it. I haven't read The House by the Lake, I think it's called, which I hear is one of James Tynion's best. I haven't read Detective Comics, his Batman stuff, but Something is Killing the Children is so good. And it's not even just the character of Erica Slaughter that is so nuanced. I remember the little boy who was telling the horror story when the monsters came. He had a great arc. Every character in the story felt very nuanced, even though they were spins on like horror movie cliches. I thought that was really well done, and I can't wait to read more of Something is Killing the Children. All right, number 6 was probably the hardest one for me to pick because I am a huge fan of Jeff Lemire, and I love his Black Hammer universe. Absolutely love it to death, but I did not pick it as my Jeff Lemire book, and that is because there's too many inconsistencies with the Black Hammer universe. Some of it is really amazing, some not. I really wanted to put Frog Catchers and the Maze book on here, and those I thought were very poignant and very powerful, but they're like 30-minute reads, and I didn't want to include that on like my Jeff Lemire book to end all Jeff Lemire books. So I'm going to go with Descender Ascender.
If we want the world around us to improve, we have to find a way to change ourselves first. Love is just a chemical reaction. It can be turned on and off like a light switch. Humanity is capable of great compassion and great cruelty. It simply depends on which side of the line we find ourselves. Hope never truly dies. It only hides until the time is right to resurface.
It's technically 2 series, but it's really just 1 series. it just felt like 2 seasons of a TV series. Descender with art by Dustin Nguyen. This follows the character of Tim 21. He is an android companion bot, so he's basically meant to be your robot best friend. And this kid Andy, his mom gets him the Tim 21 companion bot. So this big devastating event happens. These ancient machines older than humanity come and they wipe out all, like, not all life in the galaxy, but this is a decimation level event, like apocalyptic. Life throughout the solar system is completely fractured after this. We follow Tim 21 because he has a code in his system that kind of carries the secret for what happened to these ancient robots and where they went, and could possibly call them back. And you follow a Navy admiral's daughter who was a captain. You follow the scientist that created Tim 21, and you follow Tim 21, a drilling bot. You follow so many characters throughout this space opera story. Andy, the boy who originally was gifted the companion bot, and it is a powerful story. The characters are all very well done, and I just thought it did space opera better than most comics have ever come close to. For my number 5, I want to go over a hard fantasy, like strictly fantasy comic book, and I absolutely adore this book. It's by Rick Remender, and that is Seven to Eternity.
No one learns from the road walked by another man. Folks believe the side of the story that suits them. A billion souls all knowing what's right for everyone else until their justice conflicts with their interests.
So in Seven to Eternity, we follow Adam Osidus. He is the son of the last mage type character that never heard the Mud King's offer. The Mud King, or the King of Whispers, is someone that he can make you an offer, and if you hear his offer, he is able to grant you whatever you most desire. What Adam Osidus desires is to keep his family safe, and he finds out he has this illness, so he goes out to hear the Mud King's offer. Shenanigans ensue. This is a Joe Abercrombie, Michael R. Fletcher level grimdark tale, but with more high fantasy elements. The character of Adam Osidus is a anti-hero and a half. Absolutely amazing character work, and he really rides that line between moral gray and just straight black. And I thought he was an awesome character. Seven to Eternity, you got to check it out. All right, so my number 4 pick, and it pains me to put it this low, and it's going to be a book by Alan Moore. Alan Moore is one of my favorite authors of all time, not just in comics, but in prose as well. I'm going to go over what most people probably assume made this list would be Watchmen. That's not my favorite Alan Moore book. It's up there. It's really good, but it's not my personal favorite. It's like my 3rd favorite Alan Moore comic. My 2nd favorite would have to be Miracle Man. Miracle Man was really great. It was the kind of modern, dark take on the character of Shazam. Shazam that's kind of grown up. Only it wasn't, Shazam. It was Marvel Man. And then now Marvel has like reprinted it as Miracle Man since they've attained the rights of it. But it was originally this British kind of satire, but also rip-off of Shazam. And Alan Moore took the reins on that story and made it into something absolutely amazing. We would not have The Boys if we didn't have Miracle Man, and I still think Miracle Man is far more nuanced than The Boys.
Holy fuck! That was diabolical! Fucking diabolical!
But my favorite pick for Alan Moore has to go to Swamp Thing.
It's raining in Washington tonight. Plump, warm summer rain that covers the sidewalks with leopard spots. Downtown, elderly ladies carry their houseplants out to set them on the fire escapes, as if they were infirm relatives or boy kings. I like that. Maybe the world has run out of room for monsters, or maybe they're just getting harder to recognize. Do we immerse ourselves in fictional horror as a way of numbing our emotions to its real-life counterpart?
The Saga of the Swamp Thing by Alan Moore is a dark, twisted, but also romantic urban fantasy, but also epic in its scope. It is just a tale for the ages. It's absolutely amazing. We follow Swamp Thing through space. We follow Swamp Thing. It really covers the entire spectrum of the DC universe. We get magical stuff. We get some space horror stuff. We get absolutely amazing work and all across the board. And the pinnacle of that series, the heart of that series really, is the relationship between Swamp Thing and Abby Arcane. So much of what's happening in and around them directly affects them as characters, and they both grow and their relationship grows with the story. And I think that it is one of the best romance stories I've read, full stop, period. And it's between a spirit of the green, a like being made up of the earth's energy, and a girl from Louisiana. It's kind of crazy. It's batshit, but it's so good. All right, so number 3, I'm going to go with It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth by Zoe Thorogood.
Maybe she never really wanted to kill herself. Sometimes it felt like a performance for no audience, but it felt like acting nonetheless. If you could ask God for the answers, would his response make you happy? You're going to spend infinitely more time being dead than alive, so it's probably best to make peace with it while you can. And maybe that something is a piece of my stupid little soul trapped in a book with very divisive reviews on Goodreads.
This is a memoir comic book about a girl writing the comic book you're reading. It's meta, it's satirical, it's thought-provoking, it's endearing, it's sad, it's happy, it's joyous. It is a absolute masterpiece of a book. This is really riding the line for my number 2. And my number 2 is a book I've been a fan of for years. But It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth had a profound impact on me. I have not read The Impending Blindness of Billy Scott, I think it was. But I definitely plan to. I think Zoe Thorogood is an absolute talent in the genre. She did the writing and the art. And her comedic timing, her look on melancholy is beautiful. Beautiful as it is tragic. I think the way she examines herself and her place in the world is something that a lot of people can relate to. And even if you're not a comic book fan, I implore you to read It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth. You could probably read it in an hour or 2. I did. It's a very short read, and it's one that lasts with you. The price of the book and the time it takes to read it is well worth the amount of thought that you will get out of that book. So my number 2, and what saved me from being a non-comics reader, is Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples.
If a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, then a family is more like a rope. We're lots of fragile little strands, and we survive by becoming hopelessly intertwined with each other. You know the old cliche about millions of deaths being a statistic while the loss of just one life is a tragedy? If that's true, what is it when you lose something that never even had the chance to be born? I've had lots of relationships in my time, platonic and otherwise, but the ones I think about most are those that never quite made it to term. The dashing first date who didn't call you back, the lady on the train you had that amazing conversation but never saw again, the cool neighbor kid you met the first time a week before he moved away. I guess I'm just haunted by all the potential energy. One moment the universe presents you with the amazing opportunity for new possibilities, and then, once upon a time, each of us was somebody's kid. Everyone had a father, even if he never provided anything more than his seed. Everyone had a mother, even if she had to leave us on a stranger's doorstep. No matter how we're eventually raised, all our stories begin the exact same way. They all end the same too. They hurt you hurt them back, or maybe it's the other way around, whatever. Someday you might find a way to forgive each other, but it won't be like it used to, because the pain never really goes away.
I loved a lot of Brian K. Vaughan books. I liked Paper Girls. I loved Y the Last Man. Y the Last Man's, if I didn't have this rule about only one per author, Y the Last Man would be on this list. But I had to go with Saga because when I got fatigued from comic books, I always was looking at the next issue of Saga. I got tired of superhero comic books. I got tired of The Walking Dead. I got tired of this. I got tired of that. Throughout everything, I've always, since I've heard about it, since Volume 1 came out, I have always kept up with Saga. Maybe not I've always had the intention of going back and reading whatever chapters released. I always bought the trades, even whenever I wasn't reading any other comic book in my comic book collection. I sold everything. It was all gone. I always kept up with Saga. It is the story of Hazel, who is a half Rethian, half Landfallian. Basically, people with horns, people with wings, magically powered, technologically advanced. And they have been fighting a kind of war throughout the galaxy. They have been told that they cannot procreate with one another. Hazel is born a half-breed, and she gets hunted throughout the galaxy, and we follow her on this journey. I thought it was amazing. It's still ongoing, and they don't release books very often. They don't release chapters frequently. I think they just hit number 69, and they... golden. They had people 69ing on the cover. It's absolutely hilarious. It's bonkers. I love it. It's very sexually charged, and it's very violent at times, but it never, I know a lot of people view it as its shock value, but I think nothing in Saga, even the most, out there scene, does not exist to shock the reader. It is pushing the plot forward. It is impacting our characters in certain ways. And, it doesn't have this weird thing that I've seen with mangas where it is kind of unequal in its sexual representation of men and women. I'm okay with a book having a lot of sexual content if it's not all targeted at women. To me, Kentaro Miura does that a little too much with Berserk. There's a lot of female nudity in truly insane amount, and it made me a little uncomfortable. And Saga has some nudity and stuff, but it's usually played for laughs, or it's part of the character's scene. It's never feels gratuitous or overindulgent. And so for my number one, I had to go with a book by Tom King. But what book by Tom King? He's written so many that are 10 out of 10 masterpieces in my mind. Sheriff of Babylon with Mitch Gerrard's absolutely brilliant. Loved it. It follows the fall of Baghdad and some of the war going on in Iraq, and it was very poignant, and it taught me a lot about empathy. I read that recently. Loved it. I would also say that Strange Adventures is really good. Great mystery, but also had very thought-provoking examinations on war. But the number one Tom King book and my favorite comic book of all time, and probably will be my favorite comic book the day I die, is Mr. Miracle by Tom King and Mitch Gerrards.
Okay, I admit, I thought this would be better, with a lot more stars at least. I had this whole plan where the light of the stars would meet the light of the valley and there would be light everywhere. But where are the stars? Barda looked at Scott. We still have the valley.
Absolutely amazing. It's about the world's greatest escape artist trying to escape his own depression, and how a man can be pushed and beaten down and keep getting back up. It's an inspiring story, but it doesn't romanticize the struggle. You really are down in the gutter with Scott Free, and you feel his pain, and you question that if you were in his shoes, would you have the ability to get back up? And I don't have the answer to that question that the comic made me ask, but I do think that it is one of the most powerful things I've ever read, to include a lot of my favorite fantasy books. I would put Mr. Miracle in a similar league to A Realm of the Elderlings and Malazan, obviously behind those, but it's one of those works that has had a profound impact on who I am as a person. And I absolutely adore Mr. Miracle. I know Tom King is kind of a controversial figure in the comics industry. A lot of people love him. A lot of people hate him. I love him and will probably always love everything he writes. And I'm completely biased, but his Mr. Miracle completely altered my brain chemistry. So yeah, let me know what comics you think I should check out, and peace.